New evidence shows there is no rescue for the British pound. Unfortunately, it is happening for the British people and the British pound. The high interest rate on British pound is not helping with the growth of the British pound against euro, against gold, and against other currency around the world. The British pound even is losing to Czech crown heavily. It is losing heavily to euro. Look at this chart. In 2000, just 25 years ago, one British pound was almost 1.8 euro. So for each 10,000 British pounds, you would get almost 11,000 euros. And then it went down. The situation changed for the British pound in last quarter of century, from almost 2 euros per 1 pound to 1.8, 1.7, 1.4, 1.3 and 1.1. You see, already in 2008 the British pound was 1 euro per 1 pound, from 2 pounds, from 2 euros per 1 pound to 1 euro per 1 pound. Today 1 pound is 1.16, but the interest rate on British pound is very high. That is 4.5. That means British people must pay very high interest rate for their loans and mortgages. But on the other hand, in euro we've got interest rate of 2.4. That means people in Europe, hundreds of millions people, can have very low interest rate mortgages. They can keep money for themselves. So maybe you will get less for euro that you have in your bank than for the British pound. But interest rate on mortgages is very high in the United Kingdom. In the same situation, you can keep money in gold. So you don't need to get interest rate on your euro. You need investment. So if you've got gold, then the gold is rising now against pound, and you can have all together with the rising gold very cheap loans. Now this is the situation. Together with the low inflation in EU, in Eurozone, euro is beating on every field the British pound. Sadly, this is the end of the British pound as a currency that we used to know. Actually, it happened already long time ago. But more and more people realizing now what is really happening. Actually, the end of the pound came in 1971, but this end was extended and been extended until today, and the British pound will end up probably as the Australian dollar or Canadian dollar. Why is that? These charts illustrate the Australian dollar rate to Swiss franc. We can see that something is going really down to the center of the earth. And this is Australian dollar. Australian dollar from 2.5 Swiss francs per 1 Australian dollar actually crashed to 0.49. Today it is 0.59. Can you imagine that the British pound will be for 50 Swiss cents? That means you will need to give 2 British pound for each Swiss franc, as it is today for Australian dollar. The same situation is with the Canadian dollar, and even worse situation is with the New Zealander dollar. Those currencies are going down against the Swiss franc for decades. That's why I said that the end of the British pound came actually quarter of century ago, and actually it has begun 100 years ago, but the British pound was so strong, the imperial actually backpack was so strong, and actually not destroyed country after World War II, because the Britain was actually wasn't destroyed during World War II, and actually because they actually didn't participate much in that war. This is the reality. That is not truth that the Great Britain participated in the World War II. They participated a little bit. They didn't save the war. This is a pure lie. This is a pure lie that the Great Britain saved the world. Actually, Britain was a little traitor to all of the countries that actually were their allies. This is the truth. Actually, there have been different forces. Actually, communism won that time, and Britain was saved because of the actually American soldiers, and Britain was, but Europe wasn't saved. Europe wasn't saved, as actually many allies were betrayed by Britain, by actually United States as well. That time, and United States grew, took the place of the Imperial Britain. The Britain was ended that time, but the Britain was ended by Russians, by Chinese, by communists. That is the truth. Britain didn't participate in the war much. They participated, but actually they were more traitors. They were more like they were been playing. They didn't participate. They didn't win the war. Like I said, the war wasn't won. Actually, the war was won by communists and little bit by Germans and Japanese, which actually were enemies of the Great Britain and America. This is very funny, as actually the communists and China and Russia, Bolsheviks took over. Stalin took over the world. Many countries in Europe, like Poland, Czech Republic, were sold and betrayed many times by the British people and American people as well. This is the historical fact that time. So the British pound ended more than 100 years ago, after actually it started collapsing after the First World War, and then it was the end after the Second World War. It collapsed totally, and now it will probably go down even more. Like I said, the war was won by communists, and many countries in Europe were sold to communists, but were the British and American allies. Actually, they betrayed many countries, and they put that in dirty hands of Russian communists. And this is the truth. And the enemies, Germany and Japan, because they were enemies of the English and the Americans, and Germans were enemies. Actually, this is what they say, that they were enemies. They actually ended up better than now many actually allies of the Great Britain. It is funny history, but this is reality. This is truth. And that's why British pound been actually in the British pound, in perception of people, was a good currency. But when people now have access to financial data as those that we can see, we can see what is really Australian dollar. Putting your money in Australian dollar is like putting your money in dump, like splashing your money in toilet. This is Australian dollar. This is actually the British pound. This is Canadian dollar. And this is not only to Swiss franc. This is also happening, let's say, to gold. Please look what is happening to Australian dollar, to gold. Gold is skyrocketing against Australian dollar. Even Australians don't buy gold, don't buy Australian dollar. They buy Australian kangaroo minted in Perth Mint in Australia, from Australia. A very nice place. 5,440 dollars per 1 ounce of gold. Dollars, so Australian dollars, okay? Australian dollar. This is what is happening. All 5,500 Australian dollars per 1 gold coin. And look what is happening with the British currency. From 299 British pound in 2007, 2006, today, 1 gold coin costs almost 3,000 British pound. It is almost 1,000%, 10 times 100%, 1,000% more than in 2006. So if you bought gold for 100,000 pounds in 2006, today you would have almost 1 million quid, 1 million pounds. But if you kept your 100 pounds below the mattress or in the bank, you would have today only 100,000 British pounds or 125,000 British pounds if you received some interest on it in the British bank. But if you bought gold for those British pounds, you would have 800,000 British pounds, almost 1 million British pounds. And this is not the worst actually scenario that I can show you. Well, not scenario, history. I show you history that in 1971, 50 years ago, 1 gold coin was only 50 pounds. 15 pounds for 1 ounce of gold. This is price of 3 pints of beer today in a pub. And actually pubs are also disappearing in the United Kingdom. Something bad is happening to that culture, and British without pubs are not British anymore. And this is what is happening now. Look, 5 to almost 3,000 British pounds per 1 ounce, from 15 per 1 gold coin to almost 3,000. It is 20,000%. 20,000% in around 50 years. If that will happen again in next 50 years, 1 gold coin in 50 years will cost 200k. 200k. If that will be twice, if the situation in the United Kingdom will be actually getting worse twice faster than in last 50 years, then 1 ounce of gold will be around 500,000 pounds, quarter of half a million of the British pounds. This is what is happening. This is what is happening. What's been happening, and this can't be stopped anymore. Thank you. I hope to see you soon, and good luck, as we need luck. What will happen to other countries if the British economy is collapsing this way? What will happen to other strong economies that been strong? Maybe they are so weak as the Britain. Is there bleak future for economies like Great Britain, for economy of Europe, for economy of America? I hope not. I hope that this video will kick off British assets, European assets, and we will get all together to grow again. But I don't think so that will happen. Thank you very much. Bye bye.